So, to some extent, your platform has become a killing field for the truth, hasn't it?
I mean, Senator, I disagree with that characterization. We build ranking and recommendations because people have a lot of friends and a lot of interests, and they want to make sure that they see the content that's relevant to them. We're trying to make a product that's useful to people and make our services as helpful as possible for people to connect with the people they care about and the interests they care about.
But you don't show them both sides. You don't give them balanced information. You just keep punching their hot buttons. You don't show them balanced information so people can discern the truth for themselves. And you rev them up so much that so often your platform and others becomes just cesspools of snark where nobody learns anything, don't they?
Well, Senator, I disagree with that. I think people can engage in the things that they're interested in and learn quite a bit about those. We have done a handful of different experiments and things in the past around news and trying to show content on a diverse set of perspectives. I think that there's more that needs to be explored there, but I don't think that we can solve that by ourselves. One of the things that I saw...
I'm sorry to cut you off, Mr. President, but I'm going to run out of time. Do you think your users really understand what they're giving to you, all of their personal information, and how you process it and how you monetize it? Do you think people really understand?
Senator, I think people understand the basic terms. I mean, I think that there's... I actually think that a lot of people overestimate how much information there is.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dr. Nasser Sheikh Show. We just want to let you know, go ahead, like, share, subscribe. You all know what to do. I'm going to give you some of my reactions on the other side. So let's get back to Mark Zuckerberg and Senator Kennedy at the congressional hearings right now.
User agreements still suck.
I'm not sure how to answer that, Senator.
Can you still hide a dead body and all that legalese where nobody can find it?
Senator Kennedy.
Thank you all for being here. Mr. Spiegel, I see you hiding down there. What does yada, yada, yada mean?
I'm not familiar with the term, Senator.
Very uncool. Can we agree that what you do, not what you say, what you do is what you believe and everything else is just cottage cheese?
Yes, Senator.
You agree with that? Speak up. Don't be shy. I've listened to you today. I've heard a lot of yada, yada, yadaing. And I've heard you talk about the reforms you've made, and I appreciate them. And I've heard you talk about the reforms you're going to make. But I don't think you're going to solve the problem. I think Congress is going to have to help you. I think the reforms you're talking about to some extent are going to be like putting paint on rotten wood. And I'm not sure you're going to support this legislation. I'm not. The fact is that you and some of your internet colleagues who are not here are no longer, you're not companies, you're countries. You're very, very powerful. And you and some of your colleagues who are not here have blocked everything we have tried to do in terms of reasonable regulation. Everything from privacy to child exploitation. And in fact, we have a new definition of recession. A recession is when, we know we're in a recession when Google has to lay off 25 members of Congress. That's what we're down to. We're also down to this fact that your platforms are hurting children. I'm not saying they're not doing some good things, but they're hurting children. And I know how to count votes, and if this bill comes to the floor of the United States Senate, it will pass. What we're going to have to do, and I say this with all the respect I can muster, is convince my good friend Senator Schumer to go to Amazon, buy a spine online, and bring this bill to the Senate floor. And the House will then pass it. Now, that's one person's opinion. I may be wrong, but I doubt it. Mr. Zuckerberg, let me ask you a couple of questions. Might wax a little philosophical here. I have to hand it to you. You have convinced over 2 billion people to give up all of their personal information, every bit of it, in exchange for getting to see what their high school friends had for dinner Saturday night. That's pretty much your business model, isn't it?
It's not how I would characterize it. And we give people the ability to connect with the people they care about and to engage with the topics that they care about.
And you take this information, this abundance of personal information, and then you develop algorithms to punch people's hot buttons, and send and steer to them information that punches their hot buttons again and again and again to keep them coming back and to keep them staying longer. And as a result, your users see only one side of an issue. And so, to some extent, your platform has become a killing field for the truth, hasn't it?
I mean, Senator, I disagree with that characterization. We build ranking and recommendations because people have a lot of friends and a lot of interests, and they want to make sure that they see the content that's relevant to them. We're trying to make a product that's useful to people and make our services as helpful as possible for people to connect with the people they care about and the interests they care about.
But you don't show them both sides. You don't give them balanced information. You just keep punching their hot buttons, punching their hot buttons. You don't show them balanced information so people can discern the truth for themselves. And you rev them up so much that so often your platform and others becomes just cesspools of snark where nobody learns anything, don't they?
Well, Senator, I disagree with that. I think people can engage in the things that they're interested in and learn quite a bit about those. We have done a handful of different experiments and things in the past around news and trying to show content on a diverse set of perspectives. I think that there's more that needs to be explored there, but I don't think that we can solve that by ourselves. One of the things that I saw...
I'm sorry to cut you off.
Folks, I just want to, I don't know if my ears heard me correctly here what Mark Zuckerberg had said, but let's go back to that clip and see what he has to say again, because I could not believe my ears.
Senator, I disagree with that. I think people can engage in the things that they're interested in and learn quite a bit about those. We have done a handful of different experiments and things in the past around news and trying to show content on a diverse set of perspectives.
What? You've done a few experiments? A few experiments you've done to make sure you show diverse amounts of content? Really? Hey, Zuck! You suck! Come on now! You're the one that was selling Congress. Guess what? The Biden administration, they pressured us into their narrative, making sure the narrative was the narrative they wanted. We couldn't do anything. We had to succumb to the pressure of the federal government and Joe Biden, that old man. He made us do a lot of bad things, like censor things and, make sure that a diverse set of stuff. How come that diverse set of news stories and articles How come they weren't diverse enough to come to everybody? I don't know what happened then. Unbelievable. Let's continue.
I think that there's more that needs to be explored there, but I don't think that we can solve that by ourselves. One of the things that I saw.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Mr. President, but I'm going to run out of time. Do you think your users really understand what they're giving to you, all of their personal information, and how you process it and how you monetize it? Do you think people really understand?
Senator, I think people understand the basic terms. I mean,
The basic terms they understand, but not the other bullshit that surrounds it, that takes all of our personal information for you to use at your leisure to continually screw with us.
think that there's. I actually think that a lot of people overestimate how much information
It's been a couple of years since we talked about this. Does your user agreement still suck?
I'm not sure how to answer that, Senator.
Can you still hide a dead body and all that legalese where nobody can find it?
Senator, I'm not quite sure what you're referring to, but I think people get the basic deal of using these services. It's a free service. You're using it to connect with the people you care about. If you share something with people, other people will be able to see your information. It's inherently, if you're putting something out there to be shared publicly or with a private set of people, you're inherently putting it out there. So I think people get that basic part of how the service works.
But Mr. Zuckerberg, you're in the foothills of creepy. You track people who aren't even Facebook users. You track your own people, your own users who are your product, even when they're not on Facebook. I'm going to land this plane pretty quickly, Mr. Chairman. It's creepy. And I understand you make a lot of money doing it, but I just wonder if our technology is greater than our humanity. Let me ask you this final question. Instagram is harmful to young people, isn't it?
Senator, I disagree with that. That's not what the research shows on balance. That doesn't mean that individual people don't have issues and that there aren't things that we need to do to help provide the right tools for people. But across all of the research that we've done internally, the survey that the senator previously cited, there are 12 or 15 different categories of harm that we asked teens if they felt that Instagram made it worse or better. And across all of them, except for the one that Senator Hawley cited, more people said that using Instagram made the different issues that they face,
Mr. Zuckerberg,
either positive or.
We just have to agree to disagree. If you believe that Instagram, I'm not saying it's intentional, but if you agree that if you think that Instagram is not hurting millions of our young people, particularly young teens, particularly young women, you shouldn't be driving. It is.
Senator Cruz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Social media is a very powerful tool, but we're here because every parent I know, and I think every parent in America, is terrified about the garbage that is directed at our kids. I have 2 teenagers at home, and the phones they have are portals to predators, to viciousness, to bullying, to self-harm. And each of your companies could do a lot more to prevent it. Mr. Zuckerberg, in June of 2023, the Wall Street Journal reported that Instagram's recommendation systems were actively connecting pedophiles to accounts that were advertising the sale of child sexual abuse material. In many cases, those accounts appeared to be run by underage children themselves, often using code words and emojis to advertise illicit material. In other cases, the accounts included indicia that the victim was being sex trafficked. Now, I know that Instagram has a team that works to prevent the abuse and exploitation of children online. But what was particularly concerning about the Wall Street Journal expose was the degree to which Instagram's own algorithm was promoting the discoverability of victims for pedophiles seeking child abuse material. In other words, this material wasn't just living on the dark corners of Instagram. Instagram was helping pedophiles find it by promoting graphic hashtags, including hashtag pedwhore and hashtag preteen sex, to potential buyers. Instagram also displayed the following warning screen to individuals who were searching for child abuse material. These results may contain images of child sexual abuse. And then you gave users two choices: get resources or see results anyway. Mr. Zuckerberg, what the hell were you thinking?
I could ask another question. Mr. Zuckerberg, what in the F were you thinking? You've got to be unbelievable. You've got to be freaking intercoursing kidding me. What the F? WTF? Scream it from the heights of the mountaintops. WTF? What the freak? What? That's unbelievable. Resource sources? I think I'll just go ahead and click on that button anyways. Wink, wink. Zuck! What the?
All right, Senator. The basic science behind that is that when people are searching for something that is problematic, it's often helpful to, rather than just blocking it, to help direct them to.
Oh, pedophilia is just problematic. And if they're having a problem, the best thing is to do is to guide them in that direction. Make it easier for them to find it. Because God forbid if you did something to stop them, that would be the better choice. But, it's kind of, it's easier just to herd them off in that direction. Okay, Zuck, we know what the...
towards something that that could be helpful for getting them to get help.
In what, I understand, get resources. In what sane universe is there a link for see results anyway?
Well, because we might be wrong. We try to trigger this warning, or we tried to, when we think that there's any chance that the results.
Okay, you might be
harmful.
wrong. Let me ask you, how many times was this warning screen displayed?
I don't know, but the
You don't know. Why don't you know?
I don't know the answer to that off the top of my head. But
Well, you know what, Mr. Zuckerberg? It's interesting you say you don't know it off the top of your head, because I asked it in June of 2023 in an oversight letter, and your company refused to answer. Will you commit right now to, within 5 days, answering this question for this committee?
we'll follow up on that.
Is that a yes? Not a will follow up. I know how lawyers write statements saying we're not going to answer. Will you tell us how many times this warning screen was displayed? Yes or no?
Senator, I'll personally look into it. I'm not sure if we have.
Okay, so you're refusing to answer that. Let me ask you this. How many times did an Instagram user who got this warning that you're seeing images of child sexual abuse, how many times did that user click on see results anyway? I want to see that.
Senator, I'm not sure if we stored that, but I'll personally look into this and we'll follow up after.
And what follow-up did Instagram do when you have a potential pedophile clicking on, I'd like to see child porn? What did you do next when that happened?
Senator, I think that an important piece of context here is that any context that we think is child sexual
Mr. Zuckerberg,
abuse,
that's called a question. What did you do next when someone clicked, you may be getting child sexual abuse images, and they click see results anyway? What was your next step? You said you might be wrong. Did anyone examine, was it in fact child sexual abuse material? Did anyone report that user? Did anyone go and try to protect that child? What did you do next?
Senator, we take down anything that we think is sexual abuse material on the service, and we do.
Did anyone
report
verify whether it was in fact child sexual abuse material?
Senator, I don't know if every single search result we're following up on, but
Did you report the people who wanted it?
Senator, do you want me to answer your question?
Yeah, I want you to answer the question I'm asking. Did you report
time to
the
speak then?
people who click see results anyway?
That's probably one of the factors that we use in reporting. And in general, we've reported more people and done more reports like this to NCMEC, the National Center of Missing and Exploited Children, than any other company in the industry. We proactively go out of our way across our services to do this and have made, I think it's more than 26 million reports, which is more than the whole rest of the industry combined. So,
Mr.
I think that
Zuckerberg,
an
Mr.
allegation
Zuckerberg,
that we
your
that we don't take
company
this
and every
seriously-
social media company needs to do much more to protect children. All right, Mr. Chu, in the next couple of minutes I have, I want to turn to you. Are you familiar with China's 2017 National Intelligence Law, which states, quote, all organizations and citizens shall support, assist, and cooperate with national intelligence efforts in accordance with the law and shall protect national intelligence work secrets they are aware of?
Yes, I'm familiar with this.
TikTok is owned by ByteDance. Is ByteDance subject to the law?
For the Chinese businesses that ByteDance owns, yes, it will be subject to this, but TikTok is not available in mainland China. And Senator, as we talked about in your office, we built Project Texas to put this out of reach.
So ByteDance is subject to the law. Now, under this law, which says shall protect national intelligence work secrets they are aware of, it compels people subject to the law to lie, to protect those secrets. Is that correct?
I cannot comment on that. What I said again is that we have
because
moved
you
it
have
out
to
of reach
protect those
this.
secrets?
No, Senator, TikTok is not available in mainland China. We have moved the data into an American
but
cloud
TikTok
infrastructure.
is controlled by ByteDance, which is subject to this law. Now, you said earlier, and I wrote this down, we have not been asked for any data by the Chinese government, and we have never provided it. I'm going to tell you, and I told this when you and I met last week in my office, I do not believe you.
Nobody
And I'll tell you,
does.
the American people don't either.
You
If
tell
you
them,
look at what
Ted.
is on TikTok in China, you are promoting to kids science and math videos, educational videos, and you limit the amount of time kids can be on TikTok. In the United States, you are promoting to kids self-harm videos and anti-Israel propaganda. Why is there such a dramatic difference?
Senator, that is just not accurate. There's
not a difference between what kids see in China and what kids see here?
Senator, TikTok is not available in China. It's a separate experience there. What I'm saying
but
is...
you have a company that is essentially the same, except it promotes beneficial materials instead of harmful materials.
That is not true. We have a lot of science and math content here on TikTok. There's so much of it. I created a STEM feed for 100 billion views.
Let me point to this, Mr. Chu. There was a report recently that compared hashtags on Instagram to hashtags on TikTok, and what trended, and the differences were striking.
These guys are so full of shit. Not the senators, but the people from the platform. That Chinese dude, telling the senators there, oh, but you know what? We've got so much on TikTok, okay, math and science and STEM stuff too. And we've got billions of views there. Come on now. Oh, and now nothing's there. But in China, that's just not true. And Senator Cruz said there are other entities that are out there that are taking these from these streaming platforms and promoting. Do you think they're showing self-harm videos? Do you think they're showing transgender videos? You think they're showing gay and lesbian videos? You think they're showing, child porn videos in China on platforms similar to TikTok? Of course they're not. Not in mainland China. No, they're not doing it. But it's all being exported from China with their company to the United States. To children in the U.S. and around the other Western democracies.
So, for something like hashtag Taylor Swift or hashtag Trump, researchers found roughly 2 Instagram posts for every one on TikTok. That's not a dramatic difference. That difference jumps to 8 to 1 for the hashtag Uyghur. And it jumps to 30 to 1 for the hashtag Tibet. And it jumps to 57 to 1 to the hashtag Tiananmen Square, and it jumps to 174 to 1 for the hashtag Hong Kong protest. Why is it that on Instagram, people can put up a hashtag Hong Kong protest 174 times compared to TikTok, What censorship is TikTok doing at the request of the Chinese government?
None. Senator, that analysis
explain
is
that
flawed.
differential.
The analysis is flawed. It's been debunked by other external sources like the Cato Institute. Fundamentally, a few things happen here. Not all videos carry hashtags. That's the first thing. The second thing is that you cannot selectively choose a few words within a certain time
Why the
period.
difference between Taylor Swift and Tiananmen Square? What happened in Tiananmen Square?
Senator, there was a massive protest during that time. But what I'm trying to say is our users can freely come and post this
Why
content.
would there be no difference on Taylor Swift, or a minimal difference, and a massive difference on Tiananmen Square or Hong Kong?
Senator, could you wrap up, please?
Senator, our algorithm does not suppress any content simply based on
To
it.
answer
It
that
doesn't.
question, why
Yeah.
is there a difference?
Like I said, I think this analysis is flawed. You're selectively choosing some words over some periods. We haven't been around as
There
long
is
as
an
other apps.
obvious difference. 174-1 for Hong Kong compared to Taylor Swift is dramatic.
And Senator Hawley, you haven't voted yet. You're next. And I don't know how long the vote will be open, but I'll turn over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Zuckerberg, let me start with you. Did I hear you say in your opening statement that there's no link between mental health and social media use?
Senator, what I said is I think it's important to look at the science. I know people widely talk about this as if that is something that's already been proven. And I think that the bulk of the scientific evidence does not support that.
Well, really, let me just remind you of some of the science from your own company. Instagram studied the effect of your platform on teenagers. Let me just read you some quotes from the Wall Street Journal's report on this. Company researchers found that Instagram is harmful for a sizable percentage of teenagers, most notably teenage girls. Here's a quote from your own study. Quote, "We make body image issues worse for 1 in 3 teen girls." Here's another quote. "Teens blamed Instagram," this is your study, "for increases in the rate of anxiety and depression. This reaction was unprompted and consistent across all groups." That's your study.
Senator, we try to understand the feedback and how people feel about the services. We can improve
Wait a
them.
minute,
I
your
think
own
those
your
studies are-
own study says that you make life worse for 1 in 3 teenage girls. You increase
Senator, that's not
anxiety
what it
and
says.
depression. That's what it says, and you're here testifying to us in public that there's no link. You've been doing this for years. For years, you've been coming in public and testifying under oath that there's absolutely no link. Your product is wonderful. The science is nascent, full speed ahead, while internally, you know full well your product is a disaster for teenagers.
Senator,
and yet
that's
you
not
keep
true.
right on doing what you're doing. Right?
That's not true. That's not true.
Let me show you some other facts I know that you're familiar with.
you can cherry-pick data
Wait a
points if
minute.
you
Wait a
want,
minute.
but
That's
I
not a
mean,
question.
that's
That's
not
not a
what the
question.
internal-
Those are facts, Mr. Zuckerberg. That's not a question.
Those aren't facts.
Here, let me show you some more facts. Here's some information from a whistleblower who came before the Senate, testified under oath in public. He worked for you. It's a senior executive. Here's what he showed he found when he studied your products. So, for example, this is girls between the ages of 13 and 15 years old. 37% of them reported that they had been exposed to nudity on the platform unwanted in the last 7 days. 24% said that they had experienced unwanted sexual advances they'd been propositioned in the last 7 days. 17% said they had encountered self-harm content pushed at them in the last 7 days. Now, I know you're familiar with these stats because he sent you an email where he lined it all out. I mean, we've got a copy of it right here. My question is, who did you fire for this? Who got fired because of that?
Senator, we study all of this because it's important and we want to improve our services.
Well, you just told
And
me
I
a
think
second
that
ago
the-
you studied it, that there was no linkage. Who did
Senator,
you
you-
fire?
All you do is fucking study this stuff? That's all you do? You just study this crap? It's an own internal study of yourself, and then you say, no, there's no causal link. There's no causation. No, that's just an internal study. That means absolutely bupkis. And there's an email of the whistleblower who told you that this is what's happening. This is not happening like taking years to occur. They're talking about a time frame of 7 freaking days where this is occurring. With girls in the age group of 13 to 15 years old. And all you can do is sit there with that shit-eating grin on your face and say, oh, look at the data points. Look at the data points. That's not true. The science is unproven.
Yeah, I said you mischaracterized. the data.
37% of teenage girls between 13 and 15 were exposed to unwanted nudity in a week on Instagram. You knew about it. Who did you fire?
Senator, this is why we're building all.
Who
these
did you
different
fire?
Tools. Senator,
Nobody!
That's.
Who did you fire?
I'm not going to answer that. That's.
Because you didn't fire anybody, right? You didn't take any significant
I don't think
action.
it's appropriate to talk about like
It's not
individual HR
appropriate.
decisions.
Do you know who's sitting behind you? You've got families from across the nation whose children are either severely harmed or gone, and you don't think it's appropriate to talk about steps that you took? The fact that you didn't fire a single
happy
person?
to-
Let me
happy
ask
to
you
talk
this.
about
Let me
the
ask you
steps
this.
that we took.
Have you
If you'd let me
compensated
speak.
any of the victims?
Sorry,
Have you compensated any of the victims?
They
These
haven't.
girls, have you compensated them?
I don't believe so.
Why not? Don't you think they deserve some compensation for what your platform has done? Help with
Senator-
counseling services, help with dealing with the issues that your service has caused?
Our job is to make sure that we build tools to help keep people safe.
Are you
across
going
our
to
platform.
compensate them?
Senator, our job and what we take seriously is making sure that we build.
That's a
industry-leading
no, Holly.
tools
You know
to
that.
find harmful
To make
content,
money.
take it off the services,
To make money.
and to build tools that empower parents.
So you
that
didn't
help
take any
working-
action. You didn't
That's
take
not
any
true,
action.
Senator.
You didn't fire anybody. You haven't
not true.
compensated a
That's
single
not-
victim.
that's
Let
not
me
what I
ask you
said.
this. Let me ask you this. There's families of victims here today. Have you apologized to the victims? Would you like to do so now?
Well-
They're here. You're on national television. Would you like now to apologize to the victims who have been harmed by your product? Show them the pictures. Would you like to apologize for what you've done to these good people?
Wow, wow, wow. Unbelievable. Forcing Zuck. The stupid uck. I mean, wow, Senator Hawley. The velvet glove came down like a hammer. Ba-boom! 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 Unbelievable. Let's watch this, folks.
I'm sorry for everything that you have all gone through. It's terrible. No one should have to go through the things that your families have suffered. And this is why we invest so much and are going to continue doing industry-leading efforts to make sure that
Bullshit!
no one has to go through the types of things that your families have had to suffer.
That
You know,
apology meant bupkis.
Why, Mr. Zuckerberg, why should your company not be sued for this? Why is it that you can claim, you hide behind a liability shield, you can't be held accountable? Shouldn't you be held accountable personally? Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I think I've already answered this. I mean, these
Well,
are
try
serious
this again.
issues.
Will you take personal responsibility?
Senator, I view my job and the job of our company as building the best tools that we can to keep our community safe.
Well, you're failing at
and
that.
Well, Senator, we're doing an industry-leading effort. We build AI tools
nonsense. Your product is killing people. Will you personally commit to compensating the victims? You're a billionaire. Will you commit to compensating the victims? Will you set up a compensation fund
Senator,
with your
I
money?
think these are
With your money.
complicated- Senator, these are complicated
Yes, no,
issues.
that's not a complicated question. No, that's
Senator,
a yes or no.
this is-
Will you set up a victims compensation fund with your money, the money you made on these families sitting behind you? Yes or no?
Senator, I don't think that that's my job is to
Sounds
make
like
sure
a
we
no.
build good tools. My
Sounds
job
like a
is
no.
to make sure that
Your job is to be responsible for what your company has done. You've made billions of dollars on the people sitting behind them. Are you here? You've done nothing to help them. You've done nothing to compensate them. You've done nothing to put it right. You could do so here today, and you should. You should, Mr. Zuckerberg. Before my time expires, Mr. Chu, let me just ask you, your platform, why should your platform not be banned in the United States of America? You are owned by a Chinese communist company or a company based in China. The editor-in-chief of your parent company is a Communist Party secretary. Your company has been surveilling Americans for years. According to leaked audio from more than 80 internal TikTok meetings, China-based employees of your company have repeatedly accessed non-public data of United States citizens. Your company has tracked journalists improperly gaining access to their IP addresses, user data, in an attempt to identify whether they're writing negative stories about you. Why should your platform is basically an espionage arm for the Chinese Communist Party? Why should you not be banned in the United States of America?
Senator, I disagree with your characterization. Many of what you have said, we have explained in a lot of detail.
Senator, I disagree with your explanation. I disagree with it completely. We are Chinese people, and we are not spying or doing espionage on America or American citizens. It's just absolutely not true. I am Chu. I am Chu. I am telling the truth. Because I am so Chu.
TikTok is used by 170 million Americans.
I know, and every single one of those Americans are in danger from the fact that you track their keystrokes, you track their app usage, you track their location data, and we know that all of that information can be accessed by Chinese employees who are subject to the dictates of the Chinese Communist Party. Why should you not be banned in this country?
Senator, that is not accurate. A lot of what you describe we collect, we don't.
It is 100% accurate. Do you deny that repeatedly Americans' data has been accessed by ByteDance employees in China?
We built a project that cost us billions of dollars to stop that, and we have made a lot of progress.
And it hasn't been stopped. According to the Wall Street Journal report from just yesterday, even now, ByteDance workers, without going through official channels, have access to the private information of American citizens. I'm quoting from the article, private information of American citizens, including their birth date, their IP address, and more. That's now.
Senator, as we know, the media doesn't always get it right. What we have.
But the Chinese Communist Party does?
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that we have spent billions of dollars to build this project. It's rigorous, it's robust, it's unprecedented, and I'm proud of the work that the 2,000 employees are doing to protect the data.
I can't believe this. This is such absolute BS. It's such BS. It really, really is. I mean, the thing, folks, is that these are just a congressional hearing and Senate hearings. And there's no teeth here. They can't put sanctions on. They don't even, when these people commit perjury, nobody even goes to freaking jail. And I guarantee you, if it was you or I over there, we probably would be going to jail. Because we don't have powerful lobbies behind us and multi-million-dollar companies and lawyers that are charging $1,000 an hour that we can have on retainer for us. But these chumps, like this Chinese official here, basically saying that, no, of course not. There's no instance. We spend billions of dollars to make sure that American citizens' sensitive information, personal private information, is safe. Really? If that's true, you know what? I got a plot of land to try to sell you, but it's in Beijing. And then the stuff with Instagram and TikTok and what it's doing. And boy, oh boy, did Senator Hawley bring he brought the receipts and more. And caused Zuck to fess up. But that didn't mean it. He was just forced to do it. Just lip service. It was uncomfortable, very uncomfortable, no doubt. But he gets back to go to his billionaire lifestyle, muttering under his breath and through his breath, okay, and how terrible everything was for him today. But you know what? It's like water off a duck's back, you know? That's all it's going to be. Nothing is going to come of this. The only thing is that these are now on public records. They do get put out on different platforms. We get to see what's actually happening, and we get upset, and we can vent, and we can be frustrated. We can hope something happens. But until they change up that Community Decency Act, I think Section 230 of the code, which allows these, platforms shield against being sued. Because that's what they are. They're just platforms, they're saying. They're not editorial things. They're not, the First Amendment, basically, they can say whatever they want on that for private companies. They can do what they want. Anyways, folks, we appreciate you taking the time. You've been watching the Dr. Nasser Shake Show. I'm your host. My name is Dr. Nasser. If you haven't done so already, we'd love for you to subscribe to the channel, like, share, and follow us. Take a look at our other video links above and below. I'll leave you with my final thought, which is, when you're right, you're right, and when you're left, you're wrong. Until next time, folks, take care and stay safe.